I had no idea he was being shot at.
And with two MiG-19s coming right at us.
Because I remember a cocktail party when they came home and we were all standing around talking, and
we could pull back in like that, got a shot on him, shot him down.
The guys were talking about being shot at and that kind of thing.
And we rolled over behind him, shot him off his tail, and saved them from getting shot down.
To me, he was on a ship and he wasn't in combat. You know, that was the way I was thinking about it anyway.
I think we got 2 desserts in the wardroom that day. As we crossed the beach this time, we didn't get a vector. We got greeted by a number of surface-to-air missile batteries firing at us.
And I knew immediately what it was, the black car.
I had my hand up in the handhold like this to pull myself up from the G's we were pulling.
And all they could tell me that night was that...
And then all of a sudden...
the plane went down and they had seen 2 shoots.
I had this huge explosion and everything, and one of the SAMs went off right over the cockpit.
And that Jack's status was missing in action.
Next thing I know, I'm sitting there in my cockpit, and my hand here was the shards of the canopy, and the shrapnel had partially severed my left thumb, and is laying in my lap, bleeding all over the place. I can remember my words that day too. I said, "Oh my God, no." So I reached down with my good hand and ejected us both out of the airplane.
1 minute you're thinking, well, I'll never see him again. What am I going to do with my life? What's the future? What am I going to do with these children? That kind of thing. And then the next minute I'm thinking, oh no, he'll make it. I know he's going to make it.
I can remember the kick in the butt from the ejection. And then next thing I remember is him hanging in my chute.
And after that, I just couldn't handle it any longer. And I finally said to myself, as far as I'm concerned, Jack is alive until the Navy tells me he's dead.
The wind blast, when I hit the wind stream, dislocated both elbows and pushed him about halfway up inside of each armpit. And of course, this mangled hand was just hanging with it like that. So I couldn't do anything. I heard some strange noises going around me, and I realized what that was the people on the ground were shooting at me. So I pretty much put myself in the hands of God right there. I thought, this is it, you know. I landed in a rice paddy. The water around me continued to splash where they were shooting at me still. They're yelling and screaming, and a bunch of them come over, pull me up on the dry land, and strip me of all my equipment and my flight suit down to my shorts and t-shirt, blindfolded me, threw me in the back of a truck and covered me up with a tarpaulin and drove all night. I ended up at the Hanoi Hilton. And they took me into this operating room, strapped me down to the table, took the gauze off like that and looked at it, and took a scalpel and amputated my thumb. The doctor came over and put his foot in my chest and started grabbing my arms and pulling on them until they snapped back into place like that. Blindfolded me and took me back and put me back in that room. I was in with a group of other POWs for the rest of my time there.
My 1-year-old, she didn't understand at all. The 4-year-old was just confused.
Does she know that I'm even alive, you know? Because as it turns out, I was listed as missing in action from August until December of that year.
But the 7-year-old was quite involved, and she was very upset.
I figured that my flight time was over, you know, I'd probably never get back in the cockpit.
And Beth hadn't done any of her work. Her workbooks had pictures of planes crashing and parachutes coming down.
So a lot of that stuff went through my mind. What am I going to do? Am I going to be able to continue my career? What are the families going to think of me when I get back?
I was so disappointed in that teacher because she really didn't, she should have let me know.
And also thoughts about, you know, are we going to be released, you know?
I remember the phone call. That was what I remember, that I was so happy to hear his voice. I mean, it had been almost a year since I'd talked to him and heard his voice. And
they outfitted us with our own service uniforms, and got to make a phone call home and got some real food.
We had to wait, and it was cold.
Throngs of people standing there welcoming us home.
We waited, and then when the plane landed, it was so exciting. And there were only 2 men coming home that day, Jack and Ted Treble, and the girls just couldn't get enough. We were climbing all over Daddy's legs and so on, and his mother, and I'm sure we were all in tears.
we all came home together in the last group of POWs in 29 March 1973.
I think it was really good for me to, it helped my self-confidence. And I think it helped our relationship in that I think Jack appreciated me. And I certainly thought the world of him, I always have. But admired his experience that he had and admired how he handled it as well.